Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Futurum Tech Webcast interview series. I'm your host, Shelley Kramer from Futurum Research, and today I'm joined by my friend and regular guest, Jeff Nicholson from Pegasystems. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to be back on the show.
Great to have you as well. So, we're talking about a subject that I know is near and dear to your heart. You're immersed in it all day, every day. But it also is very near and dear to my heart. And we focus a lot on customer service and customer experience and, how technology is changing that. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. Before we do that, though, let's step back a minute and tell me a little bit about your role at Pega and, kind of the things that you focus on a day-to-day basis so that our audience can be more familiar with you.
Absolutely. At Pega, I head up our CRM strategy, and that includes getting to talk with great experts in the field like yourself, our great clients, our great partners, industry analysts like Gartner and Forrester around what are the best practices? Where is this really all heading? And that's going to be part of the big subject for our conversation today in this new category that's emerging for autonomous service.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I want to talk a little bit as we get started here about the landscape of customer service, customer experience. I think we were motoring on, and in many ways, we were seeing brands in certain industries, certain verticals being agile, sort of speeding along their digital transformation efforts and seeing some real results as a result of that. And then, we also had brands that weren't doing such a great job. And then we had a global pandemic, and everybody had to pivot. There was an oh crap moment, right? And everybody had to pivot and figure out not only how we're going to serve our customers, but how we're going to do this with a distributed, largely remote workforce. And so I think that, as businesses have grappled with the impact of the pandemic, we're not through it yet. But what I'm interested in is to tell me a little bit about some changes you've seen in customer expectations that your customers have shared with you about, the challenges that they have and what customer expectations have shifted. And I'm also interested in, in the second part of that conversation, that answer, how we're seeing brands adapt.
Well, absolutely. What we saw, of course, when the pandemic hit, is a big influx in customer service inquiries across many industries, and everyone was scrambling. And some interesting things happened. A lot of businesses started to scale up their self-service efforts, but what was interesting, we just completed brand new primary research, and it's actually uncovering that many customers began using self-service. They actually were going to your website first anyway to find your phone number or what have you. And they're willing to use self-service, but unfortunately, almost half don't expect self-service to work.
Right.
So something's broken in the process. There's an opportunity here to fully resolve these inquiries right there on the website, but the approaches of the past were no longer sufficient. So what we saw a number of brands do was think about the problem differently. And they were able to not just serve up product information on their website and just general information, credit card information, mortgages. Well, I don't have that. And not forcing customers to play hide and seek with the answer they're looking for, but reorganize around customer journey.
Yeah.
The ones that did that saw major successes.
Yeah, I also often feel like as I've navigated my own customer service journeys, I've felt like, and I know that everyone who's immersed in this space like we are has had these same experiences, but you're doing something, you're trying to solve your own problem. It's going to be quicker for you to solve your own problem than to actually call or to email and wait for a response or whatever. And then you start down that journey and you're like, oh my God, it is clear that the president of this company has never tried to get customer service to take care of a problem themselves. And it really it has seemed in many ways as though, people really aren't thinking through every step of the process, or if they put it together, no one is actually testing it to see, if it works, how it works, and that sort of thing. And conversely, when you have an experience that is so intuitive, that is so easy, it's like, you just want to stop and tell everybody, oh my God, I just did this thing, with such and such a brand and I needed to change this. And it's always been such a pain, but it was so amazingly easy. Like you kind of want to sing it from the rooftops. Not that anybody cares. But it is when you have those experiences, and unfortunately in many instances it does seem like those are the exception rather than the rule. So hopefully what we're seeing as part of this, as companies sort of accelerate their digital transformation journeys, hopefully we'll see more and more of this, and it'll, the end result is it's good for everybody, right? It's not serving up an amazing customer experience that solves all the problems quickly and easily is as beneficial to customer retention, customer loyalty, customer satisfaction as it is to profitability and, time spent by staff on solving problems, so it really is a win all the way around. So, but this relies on technology in many ways, right? And so, one of the things that you and I had talked about in one of our previous interviews was, in the early days of the pandemic, we were seeing banking and financial institutions and health insurance companies and that sort of thing just bombarded with customer questions and claims and requests for assistance and all that sort of thing. And what we learned very, very quickly was that humans can't do this alone, and that technology is a big part of the solution. So, so I would like to talk a little bit about, what kind of technology is needed to address customer touch points in the most effective and efficient ways possible.
Absolutely. And that is all changing
Yeah.
right now under our feet. In days past, we rushed out to individual channels and stood up channel infrastructure.
Right.
And we thought that would solve it. But all it did is created just individual silos, disjointed experiences, a chatbot experience over here that can only do a small subset of things and answer your store hours and things like that waste people's time, versus maybe a better experience through talking with an agent, with a different experience through the mobile app. And so what we saw organizations do is take a step back, the ones that did it best. And they said, well, can we reorganize around journey in the center? And if we did that, is there a way to activate it in other ways to kind of change the shape and surface area of the types of service we're able to deliver on more than just one touch point? And you mentioned insurance companies. There's a great American insurer, Aflac, who did a great job at this. And when COVID hit, they were able to take the processes, the journeys that were orchestrated in the center, activated initially in their desktop for their agent, and activate them out to an intelligent virtual assistant on the website that actually understood it was you, Shelley, that was there, and you were perhaps asking about a claim that you had opened, as many were opening claims, and it's specific to you and your journey. It's not giving you information that's completely generic, and that was actually the highest volume inquiry type, which was claim status.
Right.
And they saw that they were able to resolve fully almost 80% of those inquiries right there in the intelligent virtual assistant. And the reason is it was organized around journey. It was giving you the same level of information that you would be able to get, individual contextual information that you would get by speaking with an agent right there 24/7. And they observed that their NPS scores were tremendous. And so this is the changing surface area. And think of it as the AI and automation being activated really wherever you go, and this ability to almost be autonomous, organized around you and your needs. And this is where it's all going.
Which is exactly how it should be, right? I think that from a customer standpoint, there's nothing more frustrating than, when you're starting the process of needing customer service, and whether you're doing it on the web or whether you're doing it on the phone, and it's like, Shelley Kramer, and this is my information, and this is my claim number, and this is my, and you put all this information in or give all this information. And then the next thing in many instances, you get a human that you've had to wait a long time for, who has none of this information at their fingertips, who's asking you all the same information again, which, in the big scheme of life, it's a small frustration, and it's one we customers have learned to deal with. But when the technology exists to instantly identify me because of my phone number or because of my email address, and to make every part of that experience efficient for me and efficient for, the brand, I mean, that's I know I've said this before, but it's a no-brainer. I mean, there's no way that it doesn't, and again, NPS score is great, but, customer retention, customer loyalty, all of those things. And then when you look at the cost savings on the brand side, we're able to touch customers in a more meaningful way, more effectively, more efficiently, more rapidly. And oh, by the way, our employees love their jobs so much more.
I think that's right. Well, EX or employee experience is a big growing trend at the
Right.
moment, and rightly so. Agents have had a hard time
Right.
in these distributed environments. They're kind of an island on their own, and we want to make their world better as well. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting, Shell. You brought up something on that repetition of information across channels. If you organize around journey in the center, and you can carry that context across channels, it helps with the efficiency inside your contact center, not just the resolution for your customer. And meanwhile, we see a lot of contact centers trying to optimize around average handle time and metrics like that, where they're just trying to shave a second off here or there. Well, this is a golden opportunity. If you can
Right.
carry that context across, avoid having that customer repeat that same information and eating up all that time, it's a win-win on all sides. But a different approach from a technology standpoint will get you there. It's that center out architecture
Right.
that is the method by which you achieve that journey in the center.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking about, a little bit more about customers and, what we're seeing as a result of just, navigating a pandemic. What are we seeing has changed from a customer demand standpoint, and perhaps maybe even their buying preferences standpoint? What things have your customers mentioned they're seeing as we've kind of gone through the last year and continue on, because we're not done yet?
No, we're not done yet. And there, as I think we started the conversation, there's a big sea change happening in customer service and where it's all going. Think of yourself, Shelley, or me as a customer of a business. I know I can take my banking anywhere. I know I can take my business anywhere. More and more, we want to feel, especially now, like someone's looking out for us and not just taking our money, but really trying to get ahead of issues for us and try and knock them down. And so we're seeing a trend moving toward not just reactive customer service or inbound customer service, where the customer has to think, I have a big problem to solve, and then come to you. The next wave is coming, and it's around two terms, proactive and preemptive service. And we're beginning to see organizations think about this problem, put in place processes like event and pattern detection into the customer data,
Right.
to understand, is there something either that has gone wrong or may likely go wrong before it does? And if that's the case, put in place processes to reach out digitally, which is obviously much more expensive than a live agent interaction,
Right.
to do the right thing for that customer and either connect them to the right self-service,
Right.
help them transfer money to avoid overdrawing their account if you see it trending that way. And these are the types of strategies that are coming next. And it's still the same category. This is what autonomous service is all about.
Right.
Putting in place the digital processes with AI and automation that can make sure that you're organizing around journey wherever it goes.
Well, and I love the phrase. I'm just sitting here, my black little heart is warmed by the thought of doing the right thing for the customer, because the reality of our business world is that it has largely not been built with that in mind, and if someone manages to overdraw their account and, gosh, I remember when I was young, that was like the worst thing that could ever happen. I'm already so poor. And then, I mistakenly overdraw and I don't know. And then before you know it, you have $200 in $15, and the embarrassment and all that, but that preemptive, doing the right thing for the customer, anticipating a problem, making my life easier. My car is powered by a ridiculous amount of technology, and every single time I get in it, it reminds me that it's time for me to schedule a service appointment. And it comes up on, I have a massive display screen, and it comes up, and it doesn't go off the screen until I either push the yes button, and then it'll automatically call to schedule an appointment, or unless I push no and, put it off. And I keep thinking, just wonder how long I'm going to get down to this game here. It's like 60 miles until I need to schedule the service. But again, it's preemptive. It's making my life easier. It's telling me what I need to do because I have a million things on my mind and a million things to remember. But I really love that, doing the right thing for the customer. I think that's such a thing to build brand messaging around. It's such an important thing, I think, to build just your whole brand premise around doing the right thing for the customer. I really like that a lot. So tell me a little bit about, I love use case stories. You've talked with me a little bit about Aflac. Do you have any other customer use case stories that can illustrate for our audience maybe how brands are responding a little bit to these changing demands, how they're, putting the customer's needs first? I'd love to hear some if you do.
Well, absolutely. And other examples include contextual self-service portals. So if they do have a need and reach out to the business, again, most are actually going to the website first.
Right.
Anyway. And can you solve it there without making them take that extra step into that game with an intelligent virtual assistant or automated phone system that asks for your 16-digit account number,
right,
only to send you on to an agent that asks for your 16-digit account number. So if you can actually go to where the customer goes, that's more empathetic. So
right,
if you go to that self-service and offer a contextual portal that has information organized around your journey, that is one of those ways. If you can offer the intelligent virtual assistant instead of a chat bot or a dumb bot,
right,
that isn't built around you at all,
right,
that again can have that same level of conversation, that's more empathetic. We see others using similar AI and automation techniques and natural language processing to implement things like, email bots. So think of it as a software-based robot that converts the old world, where it's a dumping ground of emails in a big inbox where someone's going to go through bit by bit. It might take days to get through and
right,
maybe assign it to someone. And you as a customer haven't heard anything back. What if it was different? And that software-based robot could open your email the instant it's received, use natural language processing, understand what it's about, often reply completely automatically because it understands your journey. And if things do require escalation to an agent and routing, it could take care of that. This is exactly what's happening right now with AI and automation. It doesn't replace agents. It doesn't replace empathy, but it puts empathy in more places.
yeah.
Right? And that's what it is doing for us. And it is this changing surface area of customer service.
You guys at Pega have been talking about empathy for years.
Mm-hmm.
And, as you know, I'm pretty immersed in the customer experience space and the automation space and the technology space. And that's something that I don't hear anywhere else. And, I remember, maybe 2 or 3 years ago when you guys kind of first rolled out the empathy. And, one of the things that, back in the day when we used to actually go to events.
Yes.
I was at a Pega World event, and you were able to show as part of a presentation, sort of an empathy meter and
Mm-hmm.
how you could have a dashboard and a client, a customer could decide, what we want our level of empathy to be with our customers. And, you could slide it higher. You could slide it lower, you keep it in the middle. But what was so compelling to me at that time, and again, this is years ago, which I think, 2 or 3 years in our world, right? That's a lot of time. But it was so fascinating to me because what you were also able to show is the revenue possibilities and the revenue impact of increasing empathy, of understanding a situation that our customers might be in, what they might be dealing with. And, even then fast forwarding to a pandemic, right? I mean, if I'm reaching out to my bank or my insurance company or whatever, like I'm stressed to the max, right? But I won't ever forget the fact that it was, really Pega that led in the empathy space. And I love that you continue to really focus on that because I think it's incredibly important. And again, I always like something, when we hear in this space, we hear lots of the same things all the time, low code, no code, and this and that, but people don't talk about empathy. And I think that's really, really important. I think that customers respond to that a lot. I think it makes a big difference. So I want to talk a little bit more about autonomous customer service. And, really, I know there's a number of different levels of autonomy. Just give us a little bit more of a look into this whole, new, and I think is going to be probably as important as empathy, right? But talk to us a little bit more about autonomous service.
Sure, and it is very much related to empathy. It's showing greater empathy for the customer as well as our agents at the same time. And I'll use the example that you brought up earlier, Shelley, of the big screen in the middle of your car, right?
Yeah.
So your car is packed with lots of technology, and all the vehicle manufacturers today are actually using 5 levels of vehicle autonomy as their guiding principle. Level 0 is all manual,
right.
All the way through 5, which will someday be complete autonomy, and the car drives itself. And in between are all these progressive levels. So we've I think all been in some cars where it might now chime if you veer out of your lane and say pay attention. Other ones might actually nudge the car back a little bit. Other ones just plain keep it in the lane. Yeah. And that's an example of progressive levels of vehicle autonomy.
Right.
Where AI and automation, depending upon how complex the journey you're on is, are able to sometimes almost do it all for you. Same exact sea change is happening now in customer service. And these same levels are moving across. And depending upon the complexity of your customer journey, not your driving journey, but your customer journey, you may still require 100% old-fashioned you and me agent, where a lot of empathy and understanding is required in the situation. Other cases, you may be able to be completely autonomous, just like some of those claim status inquiries we talked about earlier, with an intelligent virtual assistant resolving it for you. And in between, you have AI and automation that can nudge along the way, whether it's simply using things like robotic process automation to automate the repetitive things for agents in the background, whether it's real-time speech analytics and voice analytics or text-based analytics. It doesn't really matter. It's able to listen to the conversation, whether it's over messaging or voice, and understand what's being said and perhaps automatically surface relevant knowledge articles right into the screen for the agent as it's happening. As a customer says, I want to update my address or other things that require information. What if the agent didn't have to key it in, but the system just entered it?
Absolutely.
As it was being mentioned. So the agent, it frees them up, just like you in your car, to focus on what's really around you, on the customer, and no longer just on the keystroke.
Yeah? I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking back to my car. And one of the things that I've said, this is not the first smart technology-driven car that I've had, but it's the most sophisticated one. And I have a voice recognition system, so I can tell my car what I'm looking for, what change the station, do this, do that. My car will park itself. And I have to admit, I've had my car for a little over a year, and I've never used it to park itself, largely because I'm a really good parallel parker, and there's a part of me that just, wants to be able to continue to demonstrate that, I kick ass at parallel parking. I've joked before that it's impossible for me to hit something because, like, if I'm backing out of my driveway and, there's somebody with a dog or a car or whatever, my car will actually shut itself down. It is impossible for me to really hit somebody. The same is true if I'm coming up to a parked car at a stoplight and the car senses that maybe I'm going a little too fast, shuts me down. But my point in all this is that once you get used to great experiences powered by technology, whether they're in your car, whether they're as a customer working with, resolving a problem with a provider of yours, it is really hard to go back. I can't imagine not driving a car powered by smart technology because I'm so aware every single day how it keeps me safe and how it keeps other people safe from me, right?
From you.
So when I'm thinking about, backing out of my driveway or coming up to the stop sign. But so then you think about it, when people start getting a taste of really great autonomous service
Mhm.
and you're not doing it. And I believe that today's customers are a lot, like, what have you done for me lately? I mean, I'm looking for, I'm looking for a brand who cares about providing the best experience for me, right? And, there's so much competition, think about financial institutions. It used to be we had a relationship with a financial institution that maybe was even passed down to us by our parents, right? Dad always banked here, so we bank here. Or
Yeah.
you felt like you had to have this personal relationship with a banker. And I remember, a few years ago, my husband and I were buying a car, and we hadn't gotten a loan. I'd leased a vehicle for a long time, and the vehicle was coming off lease, and we decided to buy this car. And so I was working with my existing bank, where my business bank accounts are, my personal bank accounts are. I mean, they have a lot of my money and a 20-year relationship. And so, and my husband, this was pre-COVID, my husband travels about 90% of the time. And so
Mhm.
we were going through the loan process, and we needed to, and it was also, I think, challenging because I was turning my lease vehicle in. He was going to be gone. I literally wasn't going to have a car. So it was like we needed to expedite this process of this car purchase. And the hoops that my existing bank were making us jump through were so, like, I remember saying during the process, you've got to be kidding me. Like, we can't sign something electronically. We can't do this in advance. And it was just like, you know what? This is the way we do it. And this is the way we do it. And so, and I walked away from that conversation saying, this is ridiculous. There's got to be a better way. And ended up doing business with another bank that the car dealer recommended, a really big national bank, great reputation, who made everything about the process so easy. And so, that began the process of siphoning off business from this long-term bank that wasn't able to meet my needs, to a new bank that I'd never done business with before. But now I'm more willing to do more business with them. So my point is, what have you done for me lately? How have you made my life easier? And don't make me say there's got to be a better way, because there is a better way, And I think that's what we're seeing with autonomous service and how exciting that is. Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry, hopefully that fixed it there.
Yeah, you did.
I think that's entirely spot on. I think what we're going to see, Shelley, is that similar to what we've seen in other areas, experiences that we see in even industries different from ours are going to affect our industry.
Absolutely.
Right? And in no larger way than right here in customer service.
Well, and I think people are, the more we get accustomed as customers to having great experiences, the less interested we are in muddling through crappy experiences. So you really need to, the message here, the takeaway is truly, like, brands need to step up. They need to understand this. They need to understand that there is really cool, really, so many technology that solves so many of these problems, and leading with a customer-centric focus cannot be an afterthought. It cannot be something that we do after we do these 5 things. It truly has to be sort of the foundation upon which your customer or which your company is built, and certainly your customer experience strategies are built, I think.
I totally agree. And I think now is the time. The advances in technology have actually changed what is possible at this point.
Absolutely.
And for a long time, the barrier was it's going to be too hard, it's going to take too long, it's going to cost too much. So let's just live with the status quo. And it's just simply not the case anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, you at Pega have an exciting event coming up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
We do. It's called Pega World Inspire. It's where the world's customer service leaders are coming together to talk about the latest trends in customer service, in customer engagement, using AI and automation to really orchestrate that journey wherever the customer goes. And it is taking place on May the 4th. All the Star Wars fans are going to have their antennas go up. May the 4th be with you. But it's May 4th, and it's an online virtual event. Last year, we set a record with our attendance. We're hoping to do even better this year. So we hope you can join us.
Well, I will be there for sure. I have been attending Pega World, as I said, for, oh my gosh, it seems like a really long time now. And I always learn really interesting things. Here I am recalling the empathy meter from 3 or 4 years ago. So for all of you listening, we'll share a link to the event. You can register for the event. I will also tell you that over the course of the last year, I personally have attended more virtual events than I can count. And last year's Pega World event was one of the first virtual events during a pandemic, right? When everybody was making a shift. And what I will tell you is that virtual event was one of the very best, just the environment, the platform, the experience, everything about it was fantastic. You and the team at Pega do a fantastic job of putting on a virtual event. So if you are listening and you're hearing, virtual event, another virtual event, I can promise you it will be spectacular. So we'll include some registration information. Go check it out. We'd love to do that. And Jeff, it's always a pleasure talking with you. I know we feel the same on a lot of different topics, but it's always fun hanging out together.
I agree. Thanks for having me back on the show.
All right. We'll talk soon.